In this next tutorial, I'd like to show you not just the sensitivity to the whole farm cash flow, but show that the sensitivity analysis allows you to do drill downs both by crop as well as by um, item, cash flow, revenue, cost, etc. So let's just look at those so you can see how that works. If you wanted to see farm-based, whole farm-based revenue, you click on the revenue tab, and there you'd have the sensitivity of the whole farm revenue. Clearly, at lower yields and lower prices, revenue of the farm will be lower. This obviously incorporates the fact that some of the crop has already been sold and the prices are locked in, and the rest has not been sold, etc. Incorporates all of those assumptions. Um, you can see cost for the whole farm. Based on the variability factors of cost, we can see that there is some, most of the costs of the farm are fixed and don't vary with yield, but there are some that vary with yield, and we estimate that, on a base of $1,860,000 for this Madison County farm, those costs might decline if yields were cut in half by a little over $100,000, maybe $120,000 or so. Which provides a little bit of an offset to the otherwise, painful performance. Um, Note that the costs don't vary, as they shouldn't, with yield. With price, because prices won't impact the costs as long as we don't have any variable land rent that's revenue based, and then we wouldn't see any variability in the costs. And so this is correct, seeing it all the same number up and down the column. Next, we can go to title. Recall we made some selections on title. You can see based on these prices and yields what we might expect in terms of title payments. Here are the dollars that we would get in terms of payments under our PLC and ARCO selections. These title payments act almost like free crop insurance. It can help farmers mitigate downside risks. We can go back in and change title assumptions, which would change basically the structure of these payments and the quantities of these payments under various scenarios. Note also we had the one entity cap early on in our assumptions at very low prices, and at very low prices we see that we hit that cap. That's why you see that 125 locked in there. As we know, also, just to mention, title payments are completely unrelated to planted crops and rather are dependent solely upon the number of title acres and the program election. This is an intentional feature of the government to not provide farmers with an incentive to plant more of a crop in low price years just to capture subsidy payments. But since title payments are unrelated to planted crops, for the purposes of our model, we calculate the total payments that would be received by the farmer across all the title acres, and then we allocate those total payments based on planted acres. So the next will show you crop insurance indemnities. Recall that we only purchased wheat crop insurance so far. We don't have any on our corn or beans. So there you have the contributions, which are obviously quite small because it's just only 200 acres of wheat, and we've got an 80% policy. But those contributions are what's coming in for our wheat indemnity based on, it's a revenue policy, so based on the combination of low prices and low yields, we would get payments based on revenue shortfalls against our benchmark. And then we can go through to show each of these on an individual basis. For example, if we said indemnity for corn, well, we haven't insured our corn, so we would expect these to all be zeros, and they are. Our indemnity for beans, similarly, but our indemnity on wheat, this is the same numbers that you saw before because we've only insured our wheat. If you wanted to see, for example, your costs your costs for wheat, for your wheat crop. This is what you would expect. If you wanted to see your whole farm cash flow of your wheat crop, this is what it would look like. It's really pretty negative because we apply all of the rental costs of land to the wheat crop and none to the DC bean crop, as most academics will do, just in case the DC bean crop is not actually planted or is unable to be planted. But if you did look at both wheat and DC beans, this would be the cash flow that you would expect from that crop. Wheat, DC beans. This would be the cash flow you'd expect from your wheat, DC bean crop. In other words, you're able, through this model, to drill down into each element and see effectively the components that build up to the whole farm cash flow. That is where we started and where we'll end this video. You can see in our base case we're at $329,000 of profit, and now we'll go on and talk to what levers we have to manage and mitigate risks. We'll look at an analysis of this screen, and then we'll play with some various assumptions to hopefully develop a better looking picture than the one we see right now. And that'll start in our next video.